1,000 max miles buys you 1,000 points. That is the whole offer. It is also, as far as I can establish, the only number either company has ever published about it. On the 28th of July, 2026, Plaza Premium Group announced that its loyalty program, Smart Traveler, would begin accepting max miles from HeyMax, 1-to-1, minimum 1,000, Singapore and Hong Kong. 1-to-1 sounds like parody, it sounds like nothing was taken from you. So here is the question this whole video is built on. 1,000 of your max miles becomes 1,000 ST points. What does 1 ST point buy? I spent a morning trying to answer that from the companies themselves. HeyMax's terms page, Smart Traveler's terms page, their home page, the page on their site whose entire subject is points. Plaza Premium's own Smart Traveler marketing page, the press release announcing the deal. 6 services. Not one price. Now that is not me complaining about disclosure etiquette, it is the argument. A transfer ratio is the one number in a loyalty program that cannot be cut quietly, so it is the number that gets printed on the poster. The number that decides what you actually get sits somewhere else entirely, and I want to show you where. Chapter 1, the one number they published. Let me give you the deal exactly as the two companies wrote it, because the precision matters later. If you are not in Singapore, one line of background. HeyMax is a rewards app. You spend through it or through a linked card and you earn a currency called Max Miles, which you then push out to airlines and hotels. By the Mile Lions count, it has 27 direct airline and hotel partners. That is the context. Plaza Premium Group put out a press release on the 28th of July. Smart Traveler, it said, had partnered with HeyMax to expand loyalty connectivity. Max Miles convert to ST points at 1-to-1. Conversions start from as low as 1,000 max miles. The launch markets are Singapore and Hong Kong. 2 executives were quoted. Simon Huang, managing director of Smart Traveler, said the company saw strong value in partnerships that enhance loyalty connectivity and create more meaningful engagement opportunities for members. David B. Wang, HeyMax's head of loyalty partnerships, said that by bringing Smart Traveler's lounge and airport benefits into their ecosystem, they were delivering a unique proposition. Read those quotes again and notice what is absent. Neither man says what a point is worth, neither says what it buys. That is not unusual for a press release. Press releases are not price lists, and I am not going to pretend to be shocked. So I went to the terms. Smart Traveler runs a page for this. A proper terms and conditions page live right now on their own domain. I pulled it this morning. Here is everything it tells you. Convert 1,000 max miles to 1,000 ST points. A minimum of 1,000 max miles is required. The terms apply to HeyMax members who are eligible with effect from the 28th of July, 2026. Conversion is processed within 24 hours. Though should a system failure or technical glitch occur, it may take up to 7 working days. Your Smart Traveler account has to be held in the same name as your HeyMax account. You cannot convert into somebody else's account, so this is not a currency you can gift. If the points do not arrive, the responsibility is yours to notice. You have 3 working days from the transaction date to tell HeyMax support. 3 days against a processing window that the same document says may run to 7. I will let you sit with that one. And this next clause matters most. Once the conversion goes through, the max miles leave your balance and they are not refundable or reversible under any circumstances except for technical glitches. So it is a one-way door. You walk through and the miles are gone. There is one more line, and it is the line I keep coming back to. HeyMax and Smart Traveler reserve the right to change the conversion rate without prior notice to members. Fine, every program on earth says something like that, but hold on to it. Because in a few minutes I am going to ask a much harder question about that sentence. Which rate exactly does it protect? Now count the numbers in everything I have just read to you. 1-to-1 1,000 minimum, 24 hours, 7 working days, 3 working days to complain. Every single one of those describes the plumbing, how fast it moves, whose name it moves under, how long you have to shout. Not one of them describes the value. You know exactly how many max miles go in. Do you know what comes out? Chapter 2, what a ratio cannot tell you. Every points conversion you will ever make has 2 numbers in it. Only one of them tends to get advertised. The first is the ratio, how many of your points become how many of theirs. The second is the redemption price, how many of theirs it takes to buy the thing you actually wanted. The ratio is upstream, the redemption price is downstream, and here is what gets missed. The ratio on its own is meaningless, genuinely mathematically meaningless. Let me prove that with a case you can go and check yourself. HeyMax transfers to Wyndham rewards at 1-to-1, 1,000 max miles, 1,000 Wyndham points. That ratio has not moved. Wyndham is changing its award chart on the 15th of September, 2026, and introducing a new top reward tier at 45,000 points a night. So the ratio into Wyndham on the 16th of September will be precisely what it was on the 14th, 1-to-1, unchanged, untouched. But if the room you wanted moved up into that new tier, the number of max miles it costs you went up, and the ratio never flickered. That is the entire mechanism. In one example you can verify. Now think about what 1-to-1 is really telling you when it goes on a banner. It tells you the exchange is not clipping you on the way in. That is real and it is worth something. Nobody is skimming 30% at the door. It tells you nothing whatsoever about what waits on the other side. And here is a wrinkle worth having, because it shows how slippery these numbers get once you have more than one of them. You might assume max miles go straight into KrisFlyer at 1-to-1. A lot of people do. They do not. Singapore Airlines is not a direct HeyMax transfer partner at all. The route runs through the U Rewards Club. Max miles into U points at 1-to-3, and U points onward into KrisFlyer miles. Chain those together, and a max mile is worth about 0.83 KrisFlyer miles. On promotional days, when HeyMax has run 20% milespec on U transfers, the chain has come out at roughly 1-to-1, which is exactly why people remember it as 1-to-1. So inside a single app you have a 1-to-1, a 1-to-3, and a 3-to-2, and each of them is honest, and none of them can be compared with any of the others without knowing what sits at the end. With an airline, you can usually live with that because you already have a feel for what a mile is. There is a public award chart. There is a market of people arguing about it on forums. So what is an ST point? Be honest with yourself because I had to be. Before I started this, I could not have told you within a factor of 3. A max mile I can price 2 independent ways. The first is HeyMax's own behavior. In March 2026, the company ran a promotion called Max Miles Boost, which let people buy max miles at 2 Singapore cents each. Half a mile per dollar spent, plus a 1% administrative fee. That is as close as you get to a manufacturer's price. 2 Singapore cents. The second is the community benchmark. The Mile Lion, writing about the Wyndham promotion on the 19th of August, told readers plainly they should be getting at least 1.8 cents per max mile out of any redemption. So call a max mile somewhere between 1.8 and 2 Singapore cents. Both numbers are public, both are dated, both are checkable by you tonight for free. Now price an ST point for me. Go on. Try. You are converting into it at 1-to-1. You are handing over something worth about 2 cents a unit. What are you getting back? Neither company will tell you. And that is the claim everything else in this video rests on. So the next chapter is me trying as hard as I possibly can to prove myself wrong. Chapter 3: How to Earn, Never What It Costs. I want you to follow the exact route I took, because if I have got this wrong, this is where you will catch me. Start where a normal person starts. Smart Traveler's website, their own domain, their own words, the English language version. The home page loads. It is about 100 kilobytes of marketing. I searched every byte of it for a number followed by the word points. Nothing. Fine, there is a navigation bar, and on it there is a link that says simply points. That is the page, that is the one. A whole page on a loyalty program's website, and its subject is the currency. So what is on it? Quite a lot, as it turns out. And this is the part that changed how I saw the whole thing. The page tells you how to earn, in real detail. Earn 1 point for every US dollar spent at eligible dining outlets. Earn up to 300 ST points for every Plaza Premium lounge visit. Earn 2 points for every US dollar spent on air hotel room bookings. 50 points for every successful referral. Double points during your birthday month. That is precise, that is genuinely useful. Somebody sat down and wrote that carefully, and I do not want to pretend otherwise. Now count the redemption prices on the same page. There are none. Not one, not a price, not a range, not an example, not a from figure. The page will tell you to the dollar how fast the bucket fills. It will not tell you what the bucket is for. And I want you to sit with how odd that is. They have published the exchange rate at which your money becomes points. They have not published the exchange rate at which points become anything. Maybe I went to the wrong address, so I tried the obvious others. /rewards 404 not found. /marketplace 404. /redeem 404. There is a frequently asked questions page. It returns a page and the page renders empty. The content loads from somewhere my request could not reach. Now, before you conclude that this is simply a thin website, let me show you what that same site does publish. It runs individual partner benefit pages. There is one for Shangri-La Circle. There is one for linking your card. There is one for a Visa campaign. There is one, of course, for the HeyMax conversion. That is the terms page I read to you. So the site is perfectly capable of building a page about a partner, writing terms for it, and putting it live within days of a deal being signed. It has simply never built the page that tells you what any of it is worth. One more detail I noticed at the bottom of every one of those pages. The copyright line reads 2024. Now let me go to the other company, because this is a partnership and either side could publish it. Plaza Premium's own Smart Traveler page. This one is better. It has real numbers on it, 150 welcome points when you join, a complimentary extra hour at the lounge, 50% off companion access, free entry for children aged 11 and below, instant redemption for lounge access and buggy rides. So they will tell you what you get for signing up. They will tell you that redemption is instant. They will not tell you what it costs. And HeyMax's side of it. The terms page I read you in Chapter 1 has the ratio and the processing time and the complaints window, and no valuation of any kind. Let me tally that honestly, because I want the claim to be exactly the right size. I checked 9 public web addresses across both companies on the 24th of August, 2026, and I checked them twice, once with a plain fetch and once in a real browser, because some of these pages build themselves with scripts and the first pass missed things. 6 returned a working page, 3 did not exist. Of those 6, the number telling you how to earn a point was several. The number telling you what a point costs to spend was 0. Now, is that concealment? No, and I am not going to tell you it is. Here is the honest reading. The marketplace lives inside a logged-in app. Prices there change by airport, by product, by promotion, by season. And a company with a live pricing engine has a genuine, boring, entirely defensible reason not to hard-code those numbers onto a marketing page. It would then have to maintain. I believe that it is probably true. But notice what it produces regardless of anybody's intentions. To find out what one-to-one means, you have to already be inside. You need a HeyMax account and a Smart Traveler account in the same name, both active. Only then does the price list appear. Which means the decision, should I convert, is one you are structurally invited to make before you can price it. And the ratio, the single number you can see from outside, is the number that tells you least. Does that bother you? It bothers me, but not as much as what I found when I went looking for the prices anyway. Chapter 4, 2023. If the companies will not price the currency, somebody else must have. This is the miles and points world. People write these things down. They have, and what I found is, I think, the most quietly damning thing in this entire story. The best public redemption chart for Smart Traveler, the most complete list anywhere of what an ST point actually buys, is on Prince of Travel. It is dated the 4th of May, 2023. 3 years and 3 months before the HeyMax deal existed. Let me read you some of it, and I need you to hold the date in your head the entire time, because these numbers are not current and I am not offering them as current. A $20 Plaza Premium or Aerotel voucher, 2,500 points. Lounge access in Toronto, 2,800. A 30-minute shower, 1,500. A $25 Canadian Best Buy gift card, 2,325. A $50 Apple gift card, 7,500. There is a second source more recent. Award Wallet, September 2025. Still 11 months before this partnership launched. It gives ranges rather than a chart. Lounge visits 1,500 to 4,300 points. Fast Track 560. Airport hotel stays 8,000 to 14,000. A third guide, Point Hacks, was last updated in August 2023. So take a step back and look at what we have got. The most current public information about what your max miles turn into is a hobbyist screenshot from before the pandemic recovery finished. Written by someone who logged into the app, wrote down what he saw, and published it as a favor to strangers. That is the state of the evidence, and I want to be very clear that I am not going to build a valuation on it. But I will use it for one thing, because for this it is perfectly good. Look at the spread. On that old chart, a $50 Apple gift card costs 7,500 points. That is 2/3 of a US cent per point. A $20 voucher costs 2,500. That is 4/5 of a cent. A $25 Canadian Best Buy card costs 2,325 points. A $25 Canadian Walmart card, same face value, same country, same currency, cost 3,100. Read those two again, identical value to you, a 33% difference in price. And lounge entry, the thing the program is actually for, priced out better than any of them. Point hacks writing in the same era put it flatly, you are best using these points for lounge entry. Same currency, same account, same day. A third more or a third less. And that is only across the redemptions whose cash value is printed on the front of them. Now put that next to your one-to-one. You are handing over something worth about 2 Singapore cents, at a ratio that implies equivalence, into a currency whose own internal reign, 3 years ago when anybody last looked, was wider than the haircut most devaluations inflict. And notice what that does to the very idea of valuing this currency. There is no such thing as what an ST point is worth, there is only what it is worth. At the counter you walk up to, and the counters do not agree with each other. So the ratio is not the risk here, the menu is. And if you had asked me at the start of this whether the story was HeyMax quietly shortchanging its users, I would have guessed yes. It is not. Watch what happens when this company actually does cut a rate. Chapter 5: The Accor Lesson. On the 1st of July, 2026, HeyMax devalued its transfer rate to Accor Live Limitless. It went from 1-to-1 down to 3-to-2, 3 max miles for 2 Accor points. Satisfy worked the consequence out, roughly 2.95 cents per max mile before, roughly 1.97 cents after. Call it a 33% cut. Now how did HeyMax tell people? By email. And the write-up notes the announcement was buried among other updates, easy to miss. Users had until the 30th of June to convert at the old rate. So this was not a model of transparency, it was a rate cut announced quietly in a newsletter. And yet, ask yourself what happened next, because this is the part that matters. It got caught immediately. Satisfy published a piece on it. The Mile Lion published a piece on it on the 22nd of June. Anybody who reads either of those blogs, which in Singapore is a great many people who hold these cards, knew the number, knew the date, and knew the size of the cut before it took effect. They could compute it, that is the point. A ratio is arithmetic anyone can do. 2 numbers before and after, and a third-year student can tell you it is 33%. There is no ambiguity to hide in. There is a date it happened on. There is a screenshot of the old rate. That is why a ratio change generates headlines, and why programs hate making them. And it runs in the other direction too, which is the tell. In late March 2026, HeyMax offered an uncapped 20% bonus on transfers to Accor. The Mile Lion worked that one out as well. 3.56 cents per max mile. Loud promotion, loud arithmetic. Quiet devaluation, loud arithmetic anyway. Either way, the moment you move a ratio, somebody can put a percentage on it by dinner time. Now hold that against the alternative. Imagine, and I want to stress that I am describing a mechanism here, not accusing anybody of using it, that instead of moving the ratio, the price of lounge entry inside the marketplace moves. 2,500 points becomes 3,200. Who writes that up? There is no announcement, because a merchant repricing its own catalog is not a devaluation, it is Tuesday. There is no before figure published anywhere you can point at. There is no dated screenshot unless somebody happened to take one. The ratio on every banner still says 1-to-1, and it is still true. Nobody lied, nobody has to, and your max miles bought 22% less than they did last month. That asymmetry is not a HeyMax invention, and it is not a Plaza Premium invention. It is the structural condition of every points partnership ever built, and it is why the ratio is the number that gets marketed and the catalog is the number that gets managed. So when I look at a brand new 1-to-1 deal into a currency with no published price list, I am not looking at a scandal. I am looking at the exact configuration in which that asymmetry is at its largest, and I think you should treat it accordingly. Chapter 6: What the terms protect. I promised you I would come back to one sentence, and here it is. HeyMax and Smart Traveler reserve the right to change the conversion rate without prior notice to members. Now read it like a lawyer for a second. Which rate is that? It is the conversion rate, the 1-to-1. That is the only rate the document defines, so that is the only rate the sentence can be talking about. Which tells you something about how these agreements are drawn. The ratio is the thing both parties felt they had to reserve a right over. Because the ratio is a promise made between the two companies, written into a partnership contract, and it needs a clause to move it. The price of a shower at an airport lounge needs no clause. It was never a promise. It is a merchant's price on a merchant's shelf, and Plaza Premium can change it on a Tuesday afternoon because it is their shelf. Do you see how the paperwork tells on itself? The document protects the number that cannot hurt you quietly and is silent about the number that can, not through malice. Through structure, that clause exists because a lawyer needed it to exist. No lawyer needed a clause for the catalog. And this is not a HeyMax failing. Go and read the terms of any transfer partnership you hold, and you will find the same silence in the same place. The contract governs the border between two companies. It has nothing to say about what happens once you are inside the far country. Let me point at two more things in those terms because they compound. The conversion is irreversible. The words are that it will not be refunded or reversible under any circumstances except for technical glitches. So you cannot price check after the fact and back out. Whatever the marketplace says on the day you land in it, you are already there holding ST points. And the miles have to move in blocks of 1,000 minimum. Put those two together and think about what a cautious person would want to do. A cautious person would want to convert a small amount, look at the prices, and decide. You can. 1,000 max miles is a real floor, not a huge one. At roughly 2 cents a mile, you are risking around 20 Singapore dollars to see the menu. That is genuinely not a bad way in, and I would rather the floor were 1,000 than 10,000. But look at what you are doing. You are spending money to read a price list. I keep coming back to that, and I cannot make it sound reasonable. In every other kind of shopping you have ever done, the price is the thing you see first, and the payment is the thing you do last. Here the order is reversed. Convert, then discover, and the discovery is not refundable. There is one honest counter to everything I have just said, and it is strong enough that I want to give it its own chapter. Because for a particular kind of traveler, this deal is not a puzzle at all. It is a straightforwardly good one. Chapter 7: When 1-to-1 is a good deal. Let me argue against myself properly. There is a version of you for whom this partnership is excellent, and I do not want the skepticism of the last 5 chapters to talk that person out of it. Here is who you are. You fly through Changi or Hong Kong regularly. You do not hold a card with unlimited lounge access, or you have burned through the visits it gives you. And you have, at least once, stood outside a Plaza Premium lounge and paid cash to get in. If that is you, the arithmetic changes completely. Because now you have a comparator the rest of us do not. Plaza Premium's own website this morning prices the lounge at Changi Terminal 1. Level 3 Departure Transit Lounge West, open 24 hours. What? From 55 Singapore dollars. That is not a reseller's markup. That is Plaza Premium quoting Plaza Premium. So now the question stops being philosophical and becomes something you can settle in about 90 seconds inside the app. How many ST points does that lounge cost? If the answer is around 2,500, you have paid roughly 2,500 max miles for $55 of something you were going to buy anyway. That is about 2.2 cents a mile. It beats the 1.8 cent benchmark. It beats the 2 cents HeyMax charged people to buy the things in March. If the answer is 4,000, you are at about 1.4 cents, and you should transfer somewhere else. Same deal, same ratio, 2 completely different answers. And the ratio was never going to tell you which one you were in. And you can run the same test in Hong Kong, the other launch market. Resellers there list a 3-hour Plaza Premium pass at an original price of 360 Hong Kong dollars. Roughly 60 Singapore dollars, in the same neighborhood as Changi. Notice what has actually happened in that paragraph, because it is the practical heart of this. The uncertainty did not vanish. It just stopped mattering because you brought your own price. You know what a lounge visit costs you in cash, so you can convert the points into dollars yourself and check. That is the general lesson, and it is worth more than anything specific to HeyMax. A points currency you cannot price is only dangerous when you have no independent idea of what the underlying thing costs. The moment you can say this reward is worth $55 to me, personally, an unpublished catalog becomes a minor inconvenience rather than a trap. So the question I would want you to ask is not, is HeyMax being straight with me? I think they are. It is a much narrower one. Do you know in dollars what you are trying to buy? Chapter 8, the number to ask for. Here is where I have landed, stated plainly enough that you can disagree with it. The HeyMax and Smart Traveler partnership is not a bad deal. I have no evidence that it is, and I looked. What it is an unpriced one. And I think unpriced is a category we do not talk about enough, because it sits in the gap between a good deal and a bad one, where most people default to assuming good. 1-to-1 reads as fair. That is what the shape of it does to a reader. Nothing has been taken. The number is symmetrical. Symmetry feels like honesty. But 1-to-1 is a statement about a door, not about the room behind it. So let me tell you exactly what would change my mind, and then let me tell you what to do on Monday. If Plaza Premium publishes a redemption chart on the open web, lounge entry at Changi in points dated, then most of my objection evaporates overnight. It becomes a normal loyalty program, and I would happily say so. If it turns out that the marketplace price for a Changi lounge visit is close to 2,500 points, then this is one of the better redemptions available to a Singaporean holding max miles, and my caution will have cost somebody a good deal. I would want to know that. And if a year from now the catalog prices are exactly where they are today, then my worry about silent repricing was a mechanism that nobody used, and I will have been too clever. I would take all three of those. Every one of them is checkable, and none of them are checkable today. Now Mondays. Convert 1,000 miles, not 10,000, 1,000. About $20 of value, which is a reasonable price for information. Then open the marketplace and write down what you see. The lounge in points, the voucher in points, date it. Then do the division yourself. Points cost against the cash price you would otherwise have paid. If it clears 1.8 cents, take it and enjoy the lounge. And then, please, post the numbers somewhere public. Because the only reason I could price a max mile in this video at all is that other people did exactly that years ago for nothing. The whole discipline of knowing what your points are worth is a volunteer effort, and it works right up until the moment the price list moves inside an app. 1,000 becomes 1,000. You still have to find out what the second 1,000 is made of.